All right, I've got a couple big announcements for you guys. Number one, PFF's player prop tool is now available on the web for all PFF Plus subscribers. And number two, PFF Plus is 40% off right now. If you use the promo code BLACKFRIDAY, you get all of the same data, grades, and analytics that all 32 NFL teams use, all 136 FBS teams use. As well, you get access to our 2026 NFL mock draft simulator, that world-class player prop tool that can help you nail all of your bets, and of course, the best fantasy football tools on the planet as well. Again, 40% off PFF Plus right now when you use the promo code BLACKFRIDAY. We got Georgia against Georgia Tech in Dalton, a rivalry with one of the best names in college football, clean, old-fashioned hate. That's what this rivalry is known by for Georgia against Georgia Tech. And this is a game that not only is a heated rivalry game between both programs, it has some pretty big implications for both programs as well, even though it is a non-conference game. And both these teams are still alive to make their respective conference title games. Georgia and Georgia Tech both need help to do so. Georgia, they need, no matter what happens in this game, they need Texas A&M to lose to Texas. We'll preview that game next. And they need Alabama to lose to Auburn. So either Texas A&M or Alabama has to lose in order for Georgia to make it back to the SEC title game. The Yellow Jackets, simply enough, they need Virginia to lose and SMU to lose. That is the only way for Georgia Tech to make it to the ACC title game in Charlotte next week. But even so, even though, no matter what happens in this game, it's out of the control for how they make it to conference title weekend, this game still holds playoff implications for both programs. A Georgia win would pretty much guarantee that Georgia would at least host a first-round game in the playoff, if not get a first-round bye in the college football playoff. A win for Georgia Tech will put them at 10-2 on the year. I don't think they would get in as an at-large team at 10-2, but they would all of a sudden be launched into the conversation with the other 10-2 teams with a win over a top 5 team in Georgia Tech. And then also, if they do win this game and if they get help and make the ACC title game and win that game as well, it would pretty much guarantee that they would stay above either James Madison or whoever wins the American champion. The winner of the ACC title game will get in guaranteed if Georgia Tech, say, beats Georgia in this game as well. So this game still has playoff implications for both Georgia and Georgia Tech.
Yeah, no, absolutely, right? And Texas A&M and Alabama both have tough road games that they have to deal with. So Georgia, I think when you look at especially them, if they win this ball game, they're sitting at number 4 this past week. I'd assume they're going to stay there. But especially if A&M loses, you talk about Georgia moving up to number 3. And if they're in the SEC title game, not only are they looking at, a potential home game that would be locked in, but also possibly a bye week through the first round anyway, getting in that top 4 if they were to win the SEC. So this is still a very big game for Georgia. And Georgia Tech, look, trying to get back on the horse after a tough loss to Pitt last week, want to find that momentum. Obviously, their ACC fate now is not in their hands, but they want to come out and play good football. And look, it was a great game between these two last year that Georgia barely won. We could get another really good one this year if Georgia Tech plays their best ball.
Our guy Andrew Harbaugh in the chat, who is a Florida fan, by the way, said clean, old-fashioned hate also describes my feelings for Georgia as well.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah. It's a great rivalry. Also a great name for the rivalry as well. The world's largest outdoor cocktail party.
Yeah, man, Georgia really just knows how to. And then what's the Auburn one? The Deep South's oldest rivalry, right?
Yeah, that's some elite names, man.
Georgia just makes things sound so dramatic.
I love it. Clean, old-fashioned hate is one of the best names for a rivalry, I think, in college football. We have a lot of them that we'll get to today as well. Dalton, you have the Georgia Tech offense, which has had to carry this team this entire season, but they go against an elite Georgia defense.
Similar vibe as we just had in the Utah game, where Georgia, it's a million ways to run to the edges, right? When you talk about running off tackle, whether it's with their quarterbacks, whether it's with the running backs, Malachi Hosley and Jamal Haynes, or if you have Malik Rutherford going on a jet sweep, or Jordan Allen on a jet sweep, Eric Rivers, whoever's flying all over the place, the entire idea of Georgia Tech's offense is they want to stress you out east and west. They did that to Georgia last year in that game, that 44-42 loss there for Georgia Tech. But they really stressed out the Bulldogs on the edges. This year, when you're talking about off tackle runs or jet sweeps, I'm going to put them together. yards before contact per carry is the big thing. They're not going to try to run between the tackles on Georgia. They're going to try to get to the outside. 7th in that category, yards before contact per carry, and 11th in total explosive runs on those two things, off tackle or jet sweeps. Now, Georgia has done a really good job containing teams on those concepts, getting off to the edges or to the jet sweeps. 5th in the nation in run defense grade, 2nd in explosive run rate allowed. That's going to be the big question. And the other big question for Georgia is, Max, it sounds likely that their star middle linebacker, C.J. Allen, is not going to play. So they're going to need some guys at linebacker to step up. Without Allen there, K.J. Bolden at safety as well. Their defensive backs have been in the top 5 in run defense grade this year. So it's going to be a group effort, especially without C.J. Allen, the star linebacker, and he was their highest graded run defender in this game last year. They're going to have to figure it out. I do think they have enough depth to be able to do that, but that's always the key with Georgia Tech is, again, just like Utah, they're going to have to watch the football because there's so much motion, there's so much influence happening up front that you have to find the football, take that extra beat. Kirby Smart even talked about it. It's just a completely different set of keys when you're playing against a team like this, but the biggest lesson here, you have to contain them from getting to the outside. If Georgia Tech gets out towards the numbers in the run game, out towards the sideline consistently, you have a big problem.
Georgia Tech has to score points in this game, and I'll tell you why, because Georgia Tech's defense has struggled to make stops overall this year, and especially in the last few weeks. So I'm going to that right now. It's just whether or not Georgia Tech can come up with any stops in this game. So they had some concerning underlying metrics in their first 8-0 start on the year, but those defensive issues were largely ignored because, of course, Georgia Tech was 8-0 on the season, but those defensive issues have shown up in a much more pronounced way over their last 3 games. Georgia Tech has averaged over 33 points per game over the last 3 games, but still, they're only 1-2 over their last 3 games because their defense is giving up over 41 points per game over those last 3 matchups. Georgia Tech has allowed 7.7 yards per play since week 10. That's the 2nd worst mark in the Power 4. And the issue is for them in this game, Georgia has one of the most balanced offenses in college football right now. They have the 11th best offensive grade in the country, a potential Heisman finalist at quarterback in Gunnar Stockton, who has an 86.5 passing grade on the year, which is 10th in the country. He plays behind a great offensive line. That's 11th in pass blocking grade as well. They have a great receiving core with plenty of weapons for him to distribute it to. And they can also run the ball to wins as well because Nate Frazier right now has an 89.3 rushing grade on the year. The only running back in the SEC with a higher rushing grade than Nate Frazier is, of course, Ahmad Hardy. The Missouri running back we talked about before is going to be a Doak Walker Award finalist. If Georgia Tech's defensive struggles continue against Georgia, I'll say it right now, I just do not think the Yellow Jackets have any chance at pulling off the upset. They need to play better on defense against what's been a really, really good and a really, really balanced Georgia offense.
There's your problem with Georgia Tech's defense. You mentioned they've struggled lately. We've talked about some underlying issues. They now have the 8th worst team defense grade in the Power 4. Among the 9 worst defensive graded teams in the Power 4, Georgia Tech is the only one that is bowl eligible currently. This is what you're talking about, how much their offense has to overcome on a weekly basis. And then if you have it like last week where Haynes King just makes a couple of mistakes, they don't have the defense to overcome it. Even last week against Pitt, they got back to within 7. They were on the brink of a big comeback, and then a big touchdown run from Pitt really ended the game there. So they have to find a way to get at least some stops, a few, 3 or 4, even if that's all it takes. But right now, they're not getting that. It's cost them in their 2 losses. It's really been an underlying issue all year that they're winning these high-scoring games. Georgia, definitely, when you look at the 2 defenses, has a clear advantage there. Yeah. And Georgia Tech is going to have to find a way either to force Gunnar Stockton into a turnover or 2 or just come up with a few big stops to let their offense an opportunity to breathe so they don't have to play perfect football.
So even though it is an out-of-conference game, it's a huge rivalry game. Last year went to 8 overtimes and one of the best games of the entire season with Georgia coming out on top in those 8 overtimes. Dalton, who wins clean, old-fashioned hate between Georgia and Georgia Tech.
This is one because of those defensive issues. I am worried about Georgia Tech's chances to win this game. I just don't see where they're going to get stops with the way that Gunnar Stockton is playing right now.
Yeah.
Look, Georgia Tech couldn't get stops last year after about the first quarter and a half of that game. So, and their defense looks significantly worse to me this season. It's been on a cold spell now. The loss to NC State, the loss to Pitt. I do think they can score some points. I do think Haynes King can will them into a competitive game, but I think it's too much at this point. I trust Georgia's defense a lot more. I trust Kirby Smart to make those adjustments. Even without C.J. Allen, it's really a team-oriented defense that is arguably the best tackling team in the whole country. That's a big deal here, too, when you want to make those open field tackles. Give me the Bulldogs. I got a big 42-24.
Yeah, I have it 37-23. I have Georgia as well. I think the Yellow Jackets are just going to struggle way too much defensively in this game. And then I think Georgia, who's had one of the best run defenses in college football, has success against Georgia Tech's run game, who obviously they really rely on that run game. And then Haynes King will have way too much pressure on him as a passer to win this ball game as well. I got Georgia winning 37-23. Georgia guarantees themselves at least a home game in the first round of the playoff, if not a first round bye. And Dalton, they're playing this game in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They're hoping they could stay in Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the following week for the SEC championship game, but Georgia still would need a Texas A&M loss or an Alabama loss for that to happen. And Georgia Tech, even with a loss to Georgia, they are still alive for the ACC title game as long as both Virginia and SMU lose their respective games.